in favor first. India accounts for about 25% of the thorium reserves of the world. India can use that if India is able to activate its three-stage nuclear program, which we'll talk about, and to ensure energy security, to increase the per capita energy consumption of Indians, we should focus on increasing the share of the nuclear energy, which the author is also talking about. He argues that we should have 10% share of the nuclear energy in the total energy mix. About 100 gigawatt we should target. Plus, to fulfill the climate change targets, to decarbonize energy generation, we can focus upon the nuclear energy. Also, in general, to promote the economic growth, nuclear energy can contribute. But there are multiple risks involved in the nuclear energy. One is in the form of meltdowns. Like the Fukushima, there was Chernobyl disaster also. But of late, there have been lesser concerns regarding the nuclear meltdowns because now active cooling is no more used. Even if there is a power loss in the nuclear power plant, there are passive cooling methods also which do not allow the increase of the reactor core to disastrous levels. Another issue is related to the nuclear waste. For example, in Kudankulam itself, there is release of hot water from the nuclear power plants, and people nearby are afraid that it will be affecting the biodiversity in general in the nearby region and it will be damaging their livelihoods. There are health risks, for example, the ionizing radiation coming out of the nuclear plant that can cause cancer, etc. It leads to displacement because it needs a large area of land for a nuclear plant to be set up upon. Plus, there are fears of proliferation because nuclear fuel, not only for civilian purposes, it can be used for military purposes also. Also, there is a bankruptcy which many manufacturers of the nuclear reactors are facing. For example, Westinghouse or even GE, Hitachi, etc. They have been facing economic crunch. But what the author in this article is arguing is we should focus upon a sustainable energy mix. There are concerns with the renewable energy. For example, the solar, wind, etc. They are cyclical. Like when we look at the solar energy, it has a variation. If we look at the diurnal variation, during day it will be this, then during night there is negligible availability. If we look at the seasonal availability also, it goes like this because during summer months there will be more energy available. This is regarding solar. Likewise for wind also there will be variations. When you look at the diurnal variations, they will be like this. When you look at the seasonal variations also, then they will be like this. So they have an intermittency which can be avoided by having a backup power source. Likewise, if we focus upon hydro also, there are multiple concerns. For example, we cannot set up large reservoirs. It can lead to reservoir induced earthquakes. It can disturb the isostatic balance. It can even disturb the Himalayan ecosystem, which is actually fragile. For example, it can lead to floods in the local region, and further it can lead to maybe inundation of lands in the lower riparian areas also when it causes floods. Plus the capex cycle, that is the investment to return cycle for the large hydropower plants, that is very long. After a decade, it takes almost a decade to build a large hydropower plant and then start generating electricity from it. Therefore, we need not only nuclear, we need to increase the share of nuclear also, and even for the short term we need thermal power also, which will be coming from coal also. Plus the author is arguing that nuclear energy, the share of that will not increase as long as there is no competition, because right now there is only a monopoly, and we should include more government power sector companies, maybe NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, which has forayed into wind and solar also now. We should bring more competitors to increase the share of the nuclear energy in the India's energy mix. Now, Asia's growing nuclear footprint, if we look at this, China is actually having a large share of its energy coming from the nuclear energy. And this India's three-stage nuclear program, you should know for the prelims point of view also, in which thorium will be added in the third stage. And in the first stage, we'll be using the pressurized heavy water reactors, where the input will be the natural uranium, and the depleted uranium is further used as an input in the second stage, which is fast breeder reactor, and the third stage is the U-233 fueled reactors. And if all the three phases of the nuclear program are activated, we'll be able to utilize our thorium reserves. Now,